it real good. Radio Duvall, Chicago's College Connection.
Welcome back to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. We're going to dive into a little college football here, and of course, this is Del Yates' forte, talking Notre Dame football. He loves it. and the tough loss to Stanford this past weekend with Tommy Rees's last game of his career at Notre Dame. We were just talking about this, that you think treading out the water this season was a rough year for him.
It was. I mean, Tommy, here's a guy, in the average fan sees Brian Kelly screaming at Tommy Rees coming off the field, so everybody points the finger at the Notre Dame offensive issues at Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees, when he graduates, whatever bowl game they play, he's going to finish second now in touchdown passes all time as a Notre Dame quarterback. I think he's now 23 career victories to like 6 losses or 7 losses. He comes in last year during their national title run, saves Everett Golson 3 different times coming off the bench with big victories, especially the big one in Norman last year against Oklahoma. I think Notre Dame fans have bashed Tommy Rees unfairly. I think Tommy Rees is what he is. He's a pocket quarterback playing in Brian Kelly's mobile quarterback offense. This is a guy that was recruited under Charlie Weiss, who ran a totally different offense, and he's kind of just been thrown into it. And it's unfortunate because I think Tommy Rees is a tough kid. Is he a national championship type starting quarterback, Eli? No. Is he a guy who can get you 8-9 wins? Yeah, and that's what he's done at Notre Dame. He's won a lot of games at for Notre Dame. So I hope he goes out in a blaze of glory. I hope whoever they face, and I think they'll go to the New York Pinstripe Bowl, the Yankee Pinstripe Bowl out in New York on, I think, December 28th that game is. I hope he goes out as a winner, whoever they play, because he deserves it.
Yeah, and you look at Notre Dame, as you were talking about, whoever they do play, Rees is going to have to, I mean, his NFL prospects, you're looking at that, and does he have any right now if he plays exponentially well in the bowl game?
He could. You know, he's a smart guy. He's a quick learner. He's a Lake Forest guy.
Around the area.
Kid. Yeah. He's a quick learner. I wouldn't be surprised to see him catch on with an NFL team as a developmental guy, maybe as a backup, a third or second string guy for a few years, and eventually you see him as an assistant coach somewhere, an offensive coordinator somewhere 5 or 6 years down the line. That would not surprise me because he is an extremely bright kid. And also part of his issues is he's such a pocket quarterback, and we're such in a mobile quarterback era right now in college football and pro football. Tommy Rees, if you're a pocket quarterback, you need a running game. And right now, Notre Dame hasn't recruited a good running back for 20 years now, a featured back. Cam McDaniel, this little white guy out of Texas, is their leading rusher, Eli, at 600 yards. And if you're a pocket quarterback and you don't have a running game, you're dead meat because they blitz nonstop. And that's what they've done to Tommy Rees this year because he hasn't had that consistent running threat out of the backfield.
And talking about, Tommy Rees having a chance, I watched Matt McGloin against the Dallas Cowboys.
It's a good comparison.
On Thanksgiving, and Jim Nantz was talking about when McGloin was in the practice, I think it was in April for the Raiders. Guy. Yeah, very bright guy, and he was saying, I can play with these guys after his first practice with them. McGloin, I never thought would play in the NFL, ever.
Hey, he was a walk-on at Penn State.
And now a walk-on with the Raiders, too.
And that's a good comparison because he played a lot of snaps at Penn State. From his sophomore year on, and they a lot of the same kind of game. McGloin a little more mobile, Rees with a little bit better of an arm. But that's a really, really interesting comparison right there. Those two quarterbacks.
And I was shocked how well Matt McGloin played against the Dallas Cowboys. Even though the Dallas defense isn't as good this year with Monty Kiffin running that crew, and we can blame him or blame Sean Lee being out at middle linebacker, but we'll leave that to rest. After the Bears game.
Yeah.
But you look at how well McGloin played in the pocket, and they had a chance in that football game. They were up in the first half by 14 points. He led them down the field, and the Raiders' running game wasn't even playing well. And again, just how unbelievable it was for me just watching at Penn State. He looked like one of those quarterbacks that was just a manageable quarterback, just 10 yards over the middle, never going to play it down in the NFL.
And there he is on Thanksgiving night of all nights.
Playing on national television. Hey, you're right about that. And now let's dive into some other college football news going on here. And I wrote a blog here talking about college football this weekend, and you were talking to me a lot about Braxton Miller. You wrote your blog on Major Onions about how Braxton Miller should be the Heisman Trophy
That was going into before Alabama lost to Auburn. I had wrote a blog on Braxton Miller. Here's a kid that, if not missing the first, basically he missed 3 games because of injury, and he still has better numbers in every statistic than A.J. McCarron, who, if Alabama wins that game, and it sure looked like it, McCarron's probably your Heisman Trophy winner. He had that kind of a game against Auburn.
That 99-yard touchdown pass, a bullet.
A bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a prime-time NFL prospect in my mind, as A.J. McCarron. But Braxton Miller is a dynamic offensive player, and it showed against Michigan. It showed all year long. I think he's the most dynamic quarterback in college football with his feet and his arm. And that is the kid that should win the Heisman if you look at the numbers. Because, and a lot of people will say, well, what about Johnny Football? And yes, Johnny Football's put up big numbers, but he stubbed his toe against LSU a couple of weeks ago, and last week had just a so-so game. Braxton Miller has led the Buckeyes to an undefeated football season and has fantastic numbers rushing the football and throwing the football.
I agree with you, and you look at Jameis Winston, too. The comparison between the two quarterbacks, Miller's playing in the Big Ten, and Winston's playing in the ACC. And I understand that the Big Ten is down, too. We were talking about that with Northern Illinois having more, or tied with the amount of wins that Illinois and Northwestern have combined in the Big Ten, which is incredible. So that conference is down as well. But, if Braxton Miller wins against the number 1 defense in the country, give him the Heisman. That's my opinion.
Without a doubt. I was shocked last year that the kind of year he had last year, he didn't get at least invited to New York. That really surprised me. And if he has that big Heisman game against Michigan State, he's got to shoot up, especially with all the is he now looked upon as innocent today as famous Jameis Winston? But boy, that's a dark cloud hanging over him that could cost him some votes.
Yeah, and the allegations came out today that he's cleared.
Yeah.
So he's going to be able to play. And I was looking at Florida State, their rules, and if Winston was charged, then he would not be able to play another down for Florida State for the rest of his career, at least this season. Mm-hmm. So that would have been a big problem. But you're looking at, again, the Miller-Winston comparison for me is just, I understand that Miller played against Clemson and Taj Boyd, and Clemson's defense was top 5 at the time, or their team was top 5 at the time. But still, the Big Ten compared to the ACC, to me, there is no comparison. And Miller deserves the Heisman, especially being a sophomore.
Yeah, and you look at the ACC historically, they play basketball in that city. Like Clemson goes into South Carolina last week and just got pummeled. And that's their 5th straight loss to South Carolina. Really a underrated, great rivalry down there. The ACC is what it is. It's weak. I mean, you have Duke in your conference championship game playing football. You cannot compare it to the Big Ten. Michigan State, Wisconsin, Ohio State are really, really good football teams. And I think if Florida State was playing in the Big Ten this year, they wouldn't be undefeated. I mean, the ACC is Wake Forest. Does that get you
Vanderbilt? Oh, that's SEC. Never mind.
That's it. Actually, Vanderbilt football would be an improvement for the ACC. The ACC is extremely weak in college football, and people talking this crazy talk, Eli, where Auburn should bounce Ohio State. Ohio State is out of the Big Ten. It's a power conference. They're undefeated. They've now got first place votes, which pretty much, and the computers love them. There is no way, if Ohio State beats the 10th ranked team in the nation down in Indianapolis for the Big Ten Conference Championship, that any one-loss team is going to jump them. So whether it's Missouri or Auburn, stop yourself if you think that's going to happen. It's not.
So we're in agreement that if Florida State, and they should beat Duke, and if they don't beat Duke, that's a big problem because, as you were talking about, Duke's a basketball school.
Yeah.
So if Florida State beats Duke, Ohio State beats Michigan State, we're in agreement that it's going to be OSU.
Without a doubt.
FSU.
Without a doubt. And crazy talk. Anybody who thinks for a minute that any of these one-loss SEC teams, especially a one-loss team in Auburn that lost to a 3-loss team in LSU, is going to jump Ohio State, stop yourself, put down the 6-pack of beer you're drinking.
That's a great point. And you're looking at that Auburn touchdown, though, to put Ohio State in the opportunity to get to the national championship.
Sure.
Incredible. And
Nick Saban deserved it.
He did deserve it. He did deserve the touchdown and all the crap that he got after the game.
You know what? Here was the one stat, guys, that all the media missed. on that game, that famous Auburn-Alabama game, that I still would love to know the answer to. How many hillbillies down there got arrested that night after Alabama lost? There had to have been a mass riot out there in those parking lots after the game. I mean, I was down in Florida for Notre Dame last year when they played Alabama, and really you have no idea how nuts these Alabama Crimson Tide fans are. And if Notre Dame would have beat them last year in the national championship game, they probably would have burned that stadium down in Miami.
And I'm sure Bobby wouldn't have been too happy about that. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more hockey. And then we're going to dive in with Scott Powers from ESPN 1000. He'll come on and talk some Blackhawks and Blue Demons. Again, you are listening to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection.
Radio DePaul.
Well, as we say in the radio business,
is Chicago's
Oh, yeah.
College
That's right.
Connection.